Alright, hey everyone. It's been a while since I put out any kind of video. I haven't been really doing anything. But I did get Code Vein. I got it on early access. Yeah, I paid, well, they wanted $100, but I went to Green Man Gaming and I got it for 85. So, still a lot, but not as much. Been playing through it. Code Vein 2 is different in a lot of ways from the original Code Vein if you've played the original Code Vein. And one of the bigger differences to me is the concept of a burden system when it comes to your stats. It took me a while to figure it out because it's a lot, and trying to look into some articles talking about it and stuff. And I figured I wanted to try to help out a little bit because it can be pretty overwhelming when trying to read through it. And I figured that if you see it and I explain it as you're looking at it, it's easier to grasp than trying to read like a long article and them explaining meticulously how it works. So we're gonna we're gonna do it in a pretty simple way. So first off, what is burden? To put it simply, burden is basically what happens when you equip your equipment. Your weapon, your weapons, your offensive and your defensive forma, and your jail all have a particular burden depending on what it is. So, for example, the cursed Blackblade killer that I have here. Now, you see it here, attribute modifiers and burden down here, right? So this just shows like basically how strong it is, right? The burden that shows here shows what it contributes to your overall burden statistics. Your burden statistics are over here, right? It says burden. The total burden of your equipment exceeds your attributes, you will suffer overburden effects. Okay. So what I have here is you see 10, 12, 0, 0, 2, and 14. So where does that come from? So when you look at all of your equipment, you'll see how they add up. So for example, strength and dexterity. You see 10 and you see 12. All right, so the cursed Blackblade killer, which I have equipped, gives a burden of 10 and dexterity burden of 10. So then we have 10 over here. What that means is that the 10 that I have is coming from the sword that I have. And the 10 of the 12 burden that I have for dexterity is also coming from the cursed Blackblade killer sword. Okay, so what about the other two dexterity? That's coming from one of these. So let's take a look. Actually, I don't think this one has it. Yeah, okay. Uh, the offensive form doesn't have a burden, but the defensive does. The defensive is basically your shields, your parry bracers, or you have a umbral shift, which is a dodge. I have the mutinous bracer. This gives a burden of 2. So the burden from the sword is a 10, and the bracer is a burden of 2, which is what gives me 12. That's the 12 burden. And then, okay, what about the other two? So you got 2 vitality and 14 fortitude. Okay, well, let's look. A dash means it doesn't give any burden. So we have a dexterity here, dash, 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 and then a 6. All right, so putting the bracer gives me a 6 burden. What else gives me a burden on fortitude? Well, the jail does. The jail is basically, it's like the same in the first game. They didn't call it a jail though. I forgot what they called it in the first game. Um, but the jail also has a burden. It sees it down here. So the Reaper that I have gives a burden of 2 for vitality, which is where that comes from, and a burden of 8 on fortitude. So 8 plus 6 gives us 14. Make sense? So the burden is a combination of the jail, your defensive forme, which is your shield or your bracer or whatever, and the weapon. I don't have another weapon. I'm not able to right now, but I'm assuming that if when you get a second weapon, if you have a second weapon on you, it also contributes to the burden. Now, what about your stats? As far as I can see, if I remember correctly, because I didn't play the first game in a while, when you level up, I think you can adjust the stats as you do it. In this game, it's just a straight level up. You just level up a level, and that's it. There's nothing else to manipulate. So the blood code that you have equipped determines your overall stats. I think how it works is that as you level up, I think maybe your stats do go up. I can't say for certain. Let me know if that's the case or not. If leveling up increases your stats naturally, but overall, your blood code is what determines how much your attributes are. And depending on what the blood code is, obviously the stats are wildly different. So right now I have the Gula Bloodline Jose 2 blood code on. It gives strength 19, dexterity 12, mind 16, willpower 9, vitality 15, and fortitude 14. And that shows up here, right? So it's like, okay, well, why are these numbers a little different? It says 19, but then there's strength 21, dexterity 12, dexterity 14, mind 16, mind 18, willpower is the same, vitality is the same, but then fortitude is 14 and 16. So where does that come from? That comes from boosters, which is over here next to the jail. Now, I only have the 4 boosters, so I just put them on. But there's going to be a lot more boosters, and they all have different effects. So the boosters that I have here is a dexterity booster, which it says no conditions, dexterity plus 2. So no conditions, I'm going to get into a little bit on the conditions, but basically no conditions means it always works. So dexterity plus 2, mind booster, which is mind plus 2, and a fortitude booster, which is fortitude plus 2. And this doesn't affect the stats. It says attack power up for next attack after drain attack. But notice how it says no overburden effect. I'll touch into that a little bit into the video. So because I put these 3 boosters on, it gives me a plus 2 to fortitude, mind, and dexterity. That's where it comes from. That's why you see a difference of 2. 19 and 21, 16 and 18, 12 and... Well, actually, I'm sorry. The strength is somewhere else. The dexterity, the mind, and the fortitude. The strength comes from your partner. I can touch into that a little bit. So, you can change your partners when you get different partners. You see the link traits, the partner trait bonus, which is basically means that you have them as a partner, and then special notes if there are any special notes. For example, Guardian's Heart, which I think you get it as you play the story. Special note means it's unsummonable. That means you don't have anyone with you. That's why it also says the partner trait bonus, there's nothing there. But basically what it means is if you have the Guardian's Heart as a partner, your attack power goes up. You get a natural attack up boost. By how much? I don't know. I'm not sure how much it is. Maybe it's a lot to make up for the fact that you're by yourself. But then you have other partners, right? Um, Jose, right now, because I have her as a partner, she gives me a strength +2. That's where it comes from. If I go to Noah, it's a dexterity +2. And it says speed up, charged drain attacks. So when you're charging up your drain, which is your jail, it charges up faster than what it would normally. And Jose it says max Icor. Okay. So that's where that comes from. So now that we've established that, so we established the attributes, the blood codes, how they affect what it is, and you have boosters as well that can play further into it. And the burden comes from your weapon, your defensive forme, and the gel that you have. So what is overburden? What does that mean? Basically, what it means is, okay, so what it used to be, and a lot of Souls games do this, is you're not able to equip a certain weapon or equipment unless you have a base stat number. So if you wanted to use a greatsword, like an Elden Ring or something, you would have to have your strength at a certain number, right? Depending on what the weapon is. The stronger the weapon, the more the higher the stat has to be, if I remember correctly. So for like a big weapon, normally that's strength. So you would have to have a higher strength than like other weapons, than like a dagger or something. And you would do that from leveling, right? You would use your, well, in this game it's called haze, but your souls or whatever to increase that particular stat. Like I said earlier, this game you just do like a straight level up. You're not really touching the stats themselves. So it mostly comes from blood codes, and further on you can manipulate it with partners and boosters. So the overall burden. What does that mean? Is it a bad thing? Do you never want to be overburdened? The answer to that is no. There is a positive and a negative effect when you're overburdened. And this is actually one of the more interesting systems that I've seen in something like, a Souls game, where depending on your build, on your setup, you can come away with some really interesting effects. I'm still early in the game. I don't know what everything is, but I do look forward to seeing what can be done. I'll tell you this. In the first game, I basically just picked like my build, my weapon, and I kind of just stuck with it. This game incentivizes you on trying out different builds, different ways of fighting, different weapons, taking into account the overburden system. It's really, really interesting. Um, okay, so how do you know if you're overburdened? First off, well, you can do a quick glance, and you look at these. If you see any numbers here that are in the red, like say this one, that's an overburden. I am overburdened. So, what is that? How does it determine the overburden? Right. Let's get that out of the way. How do you determine if something is overburdened? The overburden comes from taking the number of the attribute and putting it against the burden amount that you have based on your equipment. And the amount of overburden that there is can determine how much you're overburdened. the higher the number, the higher the burden. And there is when you have an excessive overburden, the negative effects are greater. That doesn't mean though that the positive effects are greater. So if you think that you can overburden yourself to the balls and you get a huge boost, it's not going to happen. You want to be overburdened. Well, maybe you want to be overburdened for the benefits, but going too far gives you more negatives than it does positives. So you got to keep that in mind. So you put the number that your stat is against the burden stat of your equipment. I put on the Guardian's Heart blood code. That gives me a fortitude of 10. That comes from the blood code. I have 12 because of that booster that I have equipped. And my burden from my weapon, my defensive format, and my jail, well, specifically it comes from, because we just looked at it, right? It's the jail and the defensive that give me the fortitude burden. That's 14. So 14 is greater than 12, right? So that means I'm overburdened. And it doesn't seem like being overburdened with Guardian's Heart gives me anything. So what does it mean? Does that mean I get no penalties? Well, no, because it comes from here. So there's like two different things. Each attribute has its own overburden stat, and then the blood code or whatever, or even the weapons itself, and I think the jails too, they have their traits depending on how overburdened you are. So, for example, Guardian's Heart, no conditions, so it doesn't matter. So, the Fortitude right now is overburdened, and you see it down here too. It shows that's the Fortitude symbol. You see it up here next to the name, and it shows down. That means it's overburdened. So, what does it mean to be overburdened by Fortitude? Well, it says here, the benefit, because there is a benefit to being overburdened, recover stamina when you avoid an enemy's attack via the invincibility from evading. So, in that, your iframes give you stamina, essentially, when something tries to hit you. But the penalty, when your stamina is depleted, you suffer the inhibit status effect. The higher your penalty level, the longer the duration of the ailment. Inhibit, what does inhibit do? I think it fucks with your stamina or something, or it makes it no, it might make you slower. Inhibit is like it makes you slow, or it makes you recover stamina slower or something like that. So there is a benefit, but there's also a penalty. So you have to keep it in mind. Now, if I were to put something else, well, let's go to the one that I want to focus on, because this was basically my motivation to try to make a video to try to explain it in a way that's, I guess, easier to understand. I hope it's easy to understand, because I had this particular setup and I didn't understand what was going on until I did. So let's do, you know what, I'm gonna,
If you should come by.
yeah, give me the rest. I'm gonna change to, I had Guardian's Heart before. Okay, so take a look now. You see my strength is 19 because Jose gave me a +2. But now that she's gone, it went down to 19. Okay, so I have no overburden, right? There's no overburden here. And then this gives me certain traits. So if I had an overburden, it says charge, drain, attack, up, right? It says any burden effect. Charge, drain, attack, up. So my charge attacks do more damage if I had an overburden, which I don't have one right now. So, let me show you what motivated me. All right, perfect. There's someone there to try to figure out what's going on. So, if I understand it, take a look on the bottom of the screen and just let's see what happens. All right. Perfect, right? Perfect. They didn't get hit a single time. Wait, what? What the fuck? What the fuck, bro? Where did all my health go? They didn't hit me a single time. What the shit? What the fuck is going on? Was that you? Did I recreate your experience? What the shit is going on? You look at the blood code. Now, the bottom part here. Look at this. Strength, mind, margin 8. Ichor gained from weapon attacks, but Ichor overflow deals recoil damage. Huh? So, when I saw that, that's when it clicked with me. So what ended up happening was normal attacks give me Ichor, which is what you need to use your skills and to use your magics. When your Ichor is full and you attack something, you get damage. Now it says strength margin 8. What does that mean? So it says strength and mind, right? So okay, you see strength 10 here and you see mind 0 here. So does that mean that if the burden is 8 or more, that it hurts me? No. The margin is not the burden that you see on the bottom here. The margin is what you get after you put the attribute against what your burden is. So we have an attribute of 19, and our burden is 10. 19 minus 10 is what? 9, right? The strength margin has to be 8 or more. So what happens? It applies. The margin trait is applying to my attacks. And it does it for the mind too. You got 18 minus 0 is 18. So both of them are applying, but I don't think it really matters if it's one of them. It's going to happen regardless. I don't really feel like it does more if they're both over. I think it's just like either one. So what does that mean? That means it sucks, right? This is trash. What the fuck? Well, no. What it means is that you gotta think a little bit more about how you're gonna fight. What if I start using my skills? Now pay attention. Ah, you see that? I didn't lose health because my Ichor wasn't capped. That's what that means. So that's what makes it so interesting to me, is that depending on your equipment and the blood code, you can get some really, really cool effects on the way that you fight. This incentivizes you, and I think that's an important word, incentivizes you use your skills more often. It makes it so that you have to pay attention to how much ichor you have, because overcapping your ichor hurts you. So you have to pay attention to that. And that's just one example of the huge amount of variety that this offers you, because different blood codes, do different things. Like let's take a look at Super Bia Bloodline Valentin 1. Okay, so here, strength margin 10, right? So let's look at here. Now look at I equipped this, right? Let's equip that. Oh, I can't. Okay, you're just gonna have to pay attention. Okay, so take a look at this. It says the strength margin 10, dexterity margin 10, willpower margin 8. So this bloodline is just straight up. I mean, this blood code is straight up margins, right? Strength margin 10. So what does that mean? You take the strength, take away from the burden on strength. 14 minus 10 is 4. Do we meet that requirement? No, we do not. Dexterity, bleed factor up. All right, so what is it? 16 dexterity, 12 burden. What do we get left over? 4. Do we meet it? No, we do not. Willpower is 8. Stamina recovery speed down, but max ichor up. Do we have it? Willpower 15, burden 0. So what do we have? We have 15. Is that more than 8? Yes, it is. So willpower margin applies. We would get a lower stamina recovery speed, but our max ichor goes up. And you can even see it. You see on the well, let me show you, like right here. That's ichor right there. So you see it, 24/24. 24 is the max. If I switch it back, it goes down to 16. So it applied. That comes from the willpower margin. The max ichor goes up because of that. If I didn't have enough willpower, it would not be 24. It would be less. I don't know what it would be, by how much. Maybe I can figure it out. Let's figure it out. So I have Valentin 1. Let's see if I can get... what do I need? 8 willpower. So let's take a look. Well, this gives me a burden. Do you see now? Willpower, it says 4. It's a 4 in red. That means when I equip this, the bat jail, it's going to go up by 4. So that gives me a burden of 4. Let's see. Do I have anything else? Oh, this gives a lot of burden on willpower. Okay. So, what do we have? Okay, you see? It was 18 before. But now, look, what's my willpower? My willpower is 15. My burden is 16. So that means I have a -1 burden. Or a 1 burden, I guess it would be. So it doesn't meet the threshold. So instead of the 24 ichor that we just saw, it's 18. So it doesn't apply. Does that make sense? And just for funsies, what is the burden? So the benefit increases the attack power of Forme, which is your skills and your magic. Willpower is basically for magic. So if you're overburdened on willpower, your magic attacks actually get stronger. So that's good. But what's the negative effect? Your attack power decreases temporarily, whenever a forma fails to activate because of insufficient Ichor. The higher your penalty level, the longer the decrease in attack power lasts. What does that mean? That means, so you have that burden, right? You're using magic. And because you're overburdened, your magic is actually doing more damage. But then you use a magic attack. Say it needs 4 Ichor. You have to have 4 Ichor. But you only have 3 Ichor. So it doesn't work. But because you're overburdened, and because you tried to use it with insufficient Ichor, because you tried to use it with 3 instead of the 4, now you have a debuff where your attack power comes down. Does it cancel out the benefit, or does it actually go lower than what the benefit gives you? I don't know. You'd have to test it. But at the very least, you lose that benefit until it falls off. And the higher the burden, so if you have like a willpower of, let's say you have a willpower burden of 30, let's double it. That's much higher. I don't know what the threshold is that would consider it to be higher, but I do know, because I've seen it, is when that bar, when it fills up, and then you see another bar below it, I'm almost certain that means it's higher. And I think it keeps going. It might go to 3. I think it might go to 3 levels. Just because you see the box, like how big it is, it looks like you could fit 3 boxes there. Maybe you can even fit 6. I don't know if it does that, if it does 2 rows. But the higher the burden, the higher the penalty. But you don't get a higher benefit. So if you're rocking the willpower, if you're rocking magic, it would behoove you to actually try to overburden yourself, not too much, but then you have to be mindful of the amount of Ichor you have at any time and how much each skill or magic, how much Ichor it takes up. And you have to keep that balance. Because if you screw it up, if you try to use a skill or a magic, but you don't have the Ichor to use it, you get a debuff. You see how that works? You have to look at the traits for whatever it is. You have to look at it and you have to understand it. Here's another one. No conditions, any overburden effect, and a dexterity margin. So let's see what it says. No conditions means it happens automatically. Strength, dexterity, burden, +2. Interesting, right? So just putting this on gives you 2 burden. So I went from 10. I wasn't normally going to be overburdened because it'd be 10 and 10. It would be 0, so I wouldn't have that burden. But now I do. But you know what? Now that since I'm looking at that, let's just for clarity. Remember what I said about the partners? Jose partnering up gives the strength +2. What does it look like now? Now, I'm not overburdened on strength. It's 12 and 12. Would I like to be overburdened on strength? Well, let's see. The benefit increases the power of close range attacks. Well, if you're rocking a strength build, that sounds fucking amazing, right? You get more damage. The penalty. Additional stamina is consumed whenever an attack misses. I don't think there is an actual, like, accuracy stat. So, to me, it just sounds like if you swing and you don't hit anything. The higher the penalty level, the more the stamina is consumed. That's if I was overburdened. So you have to make sure it counts. Otherwise, you lose stamina. You lose stamina just from missing it. So, burden +2. That's just automatically from just keeping it equipped. Any overburden effect. Alright, so we have an overburden on willpower right now. We have 16, 12, so we have 4. What does that do? Ranged disruption power up at low AP. I don't really know what that means. It's gonna be something to do with guns. So your guns, the disruption power of your guns goes up, whatever that means. And dexterity margin of 5. Max ammo up. So what do I have here? I have a dexterity of 17 and a burden of 12. That's 5, right? 17 minus 12 is 5. So that applies. My maximum amount of ammo, I don't know how much ammo I have right now, but the amount that I can normally have goes up from having this. So it seems like if you wanted to do like a ranged build, this one would help contribute to that build. All right, let's try looking at one more, I guess. Let's go with Lou. So, okay, so look at that. You see what I said before?
Looks like exhaustion is taking its toll on you.
I'm not really tired. I'm fine. Okay, so willpower we have 10, and we have a burden of 16, and now there's 2. So I'm going to assume that a full bar maybe is 5. So it's 5, and that little bit is a 1. I think. I'm wondering. So, 5, 10, 15. I wonder, if you have like a 16 burden, does it come over here? Or is it just like a cap of 3? Because it looks like it can fit a third one down here. I don't know, but that's kind of the sense that I'm getting. So, same here. No overburden effect. So, if I had no overburden, which I do, charge drain attacks inflict slow buildup. So every time you use your jail, every time you use the drain attack, you're going to see on the enemy a slow. Let's see if I can show that. So I would have to get rid of the willpower burden. I can't have any burden. Okay. So now I have no burden. Let's take a look. So, take a look at what it says. We have to make sure that we understand it, right? Charged drain attacks inflict slow buildup. Okay, so what does it mean for it to be charged? Well, let's use our drain. Oh, did it work? No, it didn't work. Because I didn't charge it. Let's get rid of them. Okay. Now, but if I charge it, did you see it? Did you see it? It was really brief. Take a look at the side of the HP. Did you see it? I'm doing too much damage, so they're dying really fast. But on the side of the HP, something came up. That's the build-up. So because it was charged, that was the slow build-up. The charge is, you have to hold it, and then when you see the circle, the light, that's the charge. So it worked. And then you have mind margin, 10 and 14, so both mind. Guard stamina, cost down, attack power up briefly after drain attack. So 10 and 14. Well, mind is 6, and burden is 4. So 16 minus 4 is 12. So my guard stamina cost, because it's 10, goes down. But at 14, it doesn't apply. Attack power briefly up after drain attack. So I get this one, but I don't get this one. And that's it. I know that I kind of rambled, I guess, a little bit. And this video might end up being a little longer than I would have wanted it to. But I wanted to try to do my part to really try to explain and to show and to highlight what it means. And I hope that, you know, just like to put it into layman's terms a little bit. I hope that it makes sense. Actually, let me also while I'm here, the dodge effectiveness. This kind of threw me for a loop a little bit because I didn't know what it meant. But reading through it, there's 3 levels of dodge. If the burden for all attributes is less than half, your dodge will be quick step. If 2 or more are overburdened, your dodge will be heavy roll. So it has nothing really to do with heavy equipment so much as it is to do with your burden. So if at least 2 of these burdens are overburdened, then I would get a heavy roll. Okay. So, right now, I have 2 overburdens, right? Because of that, I now have, you see the check mark? That means I have a heavy roll now. So when I try to roll, the fat roll. Oh my god, bro. The fucking fat roll is so bad. That's because I have the 2 overburdens. So what is this up here? You see these little diamonds here? These little diamonds are the same ones that you see here. You see the line? That line is the halfway mark. So, and you see how this one is like gray, but then you see this one here that it's like glowing? It's like flashing. That means this applies and this applies. So if all 6 of these are half burdened, I would get the light roll. I don't know if I'd be able to do it. Right here. Okay. You see? Half. This is half right here. 4 or 5. I think it's 5. I think the line means 5. Half. So, see the check mark? Now I have a light roll. Oh. Look at that. See that? Hell yeah. Light roll. So this, because I switched around the defensive, I switched around the jail, and I switched around my weapon. So you see, that's how that works. So does that mean that if you get them high enough, if you try to manipulate it, can you have a light roll while using a hammer or a greatsword? Yeah. Yeah. Because it has nothing. I was going to say it has nothing to do with your equipment. It does, because your equipment determines your burden. But if you can finagle it around with a specific blood code and the boosters, don't forget there are boosters too. I don't have a lot. I only have 4 right now. But as you play the game, you're naturally going to end up getting more boosters that do more than just give you +2. If you can finagle it with your boosters, with the defensive, with the weapon, with the jail, you could, I'm pretty sure, you can end up having a light dodge with a heavy weapon. Kind of crazy to think about, right? Alright. I think that's it. I think that's everything I wanted to put out there. I hope it made sense. I hope I tried to be as concise and as clear as I was able. This is how I understand it. If something I said here doesn't make sense or if it's incorrect, let me know. Let me know in the comments. If I verify that you're right about what you said and I'm wrong, I'll pin it. You know, I don't know if I could do more than one pinned comment, but I'll pin it if I can verify that what I said was incorrect. But this is how I'm understanding it, how the overburden system works. So, yeah. Thanks guys for watching. I hope this was clear. I hope that you were able to understand it. And I hope you guys have fun because I'm actually enjoying it. I'm I'm not really into open world games. So when I found out that this is like an open world game, I was a little pissed. But the overburden system and just the feel of the game is pretty good. So I am enjoying my time with it, and I hope that I helped a little bit in making you understand it, and I hope that this helps you to also come to appreciate more what the game is giving if you weren't able to before. So yeah, this video went way longer than I wanted it to. I'm gonna edit it down, but I didn't expect it to be as long as it is. But thank you guys. I hope this helps. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I hope to see y'all some other time. Bye.